Go live. And we are live on Facebook recording the newest episode of Marta the Minimalist with my friend, my fellow college mate, even though I don't think we knew each other in university.
Each other in college.
We met each other at an alumni event. Susan Path of Ideology Communications, and she is going to tell you 3 things that you can do to attract new clients this month. And before we get into that, though, I want Susan to tell you all about her zone of genius, who you are, Susan, so they know why should they listen to you? Why should they give a shit about what we're talking about today?
Oh, that's such a nice way to start a 9 a.m. call.
And I like your coffee mug. I've got my compostable cup from 3 Little Birds next door in my office. I like it.
Thank you. So, Marta and I apparently crossed paths and didn't know it and found each other later. And that's because we were both writing people in school, right? You did more of the broadcast kind of stuff too, I think. But so that's my personal background. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, because everything that we do at Ideality Communications has some sort of story behind the brand, which we're going to end up talking a lot about today. And so for me, as a writer by trade, because I started out as a journalist, so as a writer by trade, telling that brand story is super important. You wouldn't believe how many times, a brand can go to do some PR or whatever and really doesn't understand the story they're trying to tell. So for me personally, that's why I started Ideality 11 years ago. With Marta will appreciate this, with baby in hand, literally typing at the same time.
Yep.
So I started it myself as PR and writing bios and writing website stuff, because I just really felt that was the one area people kept ignoring a lot, right? And I had a lot of previous contacts who would come to me and ask me for that writing advice. But soon after starting that, as Marta and I just joked about, I'm a little bit organized and controlled. And so I didn't like that in marketing, I was only controlling the written word and I couldn't have input sometimes on some of the other things. That was really a hard thing for me. I remember early on, I lost a pretty big contract because I was pairing with another graphic designer who wasn't really under me, right? Like they were like, oh, we're just hiring freelancers and go find a graphic designer to pair with. Or if you don't find one, we'll pair you. Well, I found one. I really liked her. They loved everything I had to offer and didn't like her stuff. And that was kind of a big turning point for me. I won't name the company, but they're massive now. So that was kind of a big turning point for me, where I thought I really want to be able to have input as a strategist in the entire story, not just the written word. So that's how I built Ideality Communications to be more of an agency and not just a freelance writer. So we have graphic designers and writers on staff, and we, will hire out as we need to, just as most small businesses do, for other storytelling things that we need to do. We don't dabble a lot in website development anymore, but where we do have our hand in is that pre-work that is so important to figure out who the heck you are and what story you're trying to tell. And at the same time, are all your brand assets, which we're going to talk about too, in order? Like, do you even know what your colors are? Do you even know what your fonts are? And do they really work for your brand? Or are they just like, oh yeah, I went to a sign, oh, I'll never forget this story. I went to a sign company, they gave me my logo. Doesn't mean that sign company knows even what your brand is about.
Right.
So that's kind of us in a nutshell. We discover what that brand is. We tell that story, whether it's in the written word or visually, through ads, through social media, through logos. And a big part of what we do, we have quite a few clients where we are ongoing telling that story. So we're on retainer. We're crafting that story when they have a crisis. We're crafting that story when they have good news to tell to the media. And we're making sure that that story stays consistent in the background visually for them too.
Awesome. I love that. So you clearly know what you're doing. You're clearly an expert. So can you enlighten the Marta the Minimalist audience if they are looking to get new clients and they're craving something more? Something's off about their brands. Something's off because they're not getting the amount of clients that they feel that they should, even though they feel like they're pretty awesome at what they do.
Right.
So can you enlighten them with top 3 things that they should and could be doing to attract new clients this month?
You're going to hate the word that's coming out of my mouth. They have to organize. I know it seems big, but it's not. They have to organize their brand assets first. They have to figure out, like, do I even have them? A lot of small companies, this is what I run into all the time. In fact, an added bonus that we give is that we, when we develop a logo, we give native files. That's part of your package, right? Because I found so many companies and entrepreneurs early on who are like, yeah, I have my logo. Yeah. Sign company did it. And it's a JPEG, low res, can't do anything with it, can't grow the brand. Now they want to add a partner and I can't even add the name without remaking the logo, right? You know that.
Right.
So first thing is find that stuff. Take the time, and you can do it in small chunks. So okay, every morning at 9 a.m. when you grab your coffee, or 8 a.m., whatever time you're starting and you're looking at your email, take the first 15 minutes, go back through files, sort your emails and be like, who did my logo? Did I ever have a style guide? Did I pick colors? Find that stuff. And that'll tell you right on whether or not you need me or others to help you, or whether you have some of those things, right? So that's rule number 1, find the things. The second thing is something I said I was going to end on this, Marta, but I'm going to make step 3 the implementation.
Ooh, juicy. So advanced preview.
So step 2 is do something that we offer called a brand identity discovery. Ooh, big words. All it is figuring out who you really are at the core. It's not just your colors and your logo, which is what some people forget. They forget that there's like this whole culture, especially for entrepreneurs, happening behind the brand. As an entrepreneur, I mean, Marta, I've seen you do this tremendously in the last couple of years, right? Your personality and your ideas as an entrepreneur sometimes are stuck in you, and you have to get them out if you plan to grow your business, or if you plan to transition your business, right?
Right.
So we have 2 levels, and one's like a Q&A that you do on yourself, a worksheet, and one's led by us. Obviously, you know, we're getting in the juicy words, we're helping you, we're taking notes, so you don't have to type a darn thing. You just sit back with your coffee and talk to us. But that's a brand identity discovery, we call it, or a brand platform. We like to call it a platform because it's literally what your brand stands on. It's your values. You identify, what are my values? What are the things that make my brand, that I make decisions by? My values: honesty. That's a huge value for me. Accuracy, because I'm a writer, right? So everything I do, I have others, but everything I do aligns with those values. And then we talk about what adjectives, we call them identity descriptors. What do you want people to say about you? What do you don't want them to say about you? You know, even so a nonprofit that I worked with once had a lot that it was a women's shelter. So they had a lot of words they didn't want people to use. That's important.
Yeah.
Start doing your marketing. If you don't have that to go by, and you're a really small business and you ask your administrative assistant to write a Facebook page, I mean, we're not even talking anything huge, just a Facebook post. They could end up putting some of those words in about trauma or whatever that you don't want in. So clearly identifying what you want and what you don't want, and writing it down. I know you're big on that. I read your book. Write it down so you actually do it. So that's your second step, a brand identity discovery. And whether you're going to do it the short way and do a worksheet yourself, or whether you're going to hire a team to help you do it, you're going to end up with identity descriptors, brand positioning statements, like short little taglines that aren't like your overall tagline necessarily, but it's things you constantly say about your business. Values, your little brand story, which is not this long, but is this long, right? It's you in a nutshell. And it's so important from a writing standpoint to get that down. I can't tell you how many times when we're struggling for a client, like on a deadline. I just had a client yesterday who thought they had 3 weeks for an ad. It's due tomorrow, you know, and we're all, you know, everybody's, I don't know what we want to do. Let's just pull this stock photo. It'll work. No, let's think about it. But the easiest thing to do every time with my team, I pull up their brand platform, we read through it, and it just zones you. It makes you think about the words that you want to use. and the story you want to get across. And then you can literally sometimes be like, I need an adjective. Oh, there's one, right? Because I want to keep saying that, right? So that's 2, is to do that process. You can do it the short way and do it little chunk, or you can do it the big way. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, you need to do the little chunk first, right? And then in a few years, you're like, all right, I'm ready for the big chunk. But do something. And then the third one, write 3 things. I'm not going to say whole marketing plan, but write 3 ways that you're going to take that brand platform and do something with it. So that could be as simple as I'm going to make sure when I write my Facebook posts this month or whatever, to read through my brand descriptors and to always include those words. Maybe your second action is I am going to talk about my brand values. Well, that's important because that helps a prospective client know if they want to work with you, not just because of your knowledge, but because of how you work, right? And maybe the third step is as simple as, all right, I have a brand story. It's this big now instead of this big. I'm going to copy and paste that in every single about section on every single social media channel and on, unless you need some SEO on the other side, and every single part of my website that talks about me so that my message is consistent. Because just because you did the worksheet, if you're not actually putting it anywhere, it's not helping, right? So that's why I switched you and put the step 3 as step 2, because we have to implement something.
Yes, that makes sense. Take action.
Yes. So step 1, organize. Step 2, do some sort of brand identity discovery, either short or big. Step 3, find 3 ways to take that stuff and spread it out. You'll be amazed how quickly just having a consistent look and voice will start to have people pay a little bit more attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say is a story of a client who you helped? They came to you, they didn't really feel like they were getting inquiries or that the revenue was wherever they wanted it to be, and you helped them through all this stuff. And what did it look like when they came out on the other side?
So I have a small example and a big example. The small example is, I can name them, they'll be fine with that. I have a really nice local dairy right near me, Windy Ridge Dairy. Beautiful, wonderful family. Have known them. I think my husband went to school with some of them. And, I'd been buying my milk there and whatever. And one day she said to me, "Are you that graphic designer?" Well, yes, we have graphic design. What do you need? Now, I knew that they didn't have logos on their milk and whatever, and it's a small family business. And I was, it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. She said to me, "I have so many pictures of different cows all over all of my milks. And I have so many, I don't even know. I'm just pulling every stock photo of a cow. Like, it doesn't make sense." And she said, "I wasn't too worried because everyone was coming to us before. It's our dairy. But now I'm finally starting to say, oh, you can carry my milk. You can carry my milk." And I'm realizing what she's basically saying is, I don't have a logo. I don't have a brand. I don't know who I am. Right. So I did a very abbreviated brand platform because they really needed, quick. I got to get this logo done. I need to print labels. I just need to get this done. And, but we did enough to identify who they really are, like a family owned business and whatever. And again, small scale budget. I didn't implement anything for them. I helped them through the process. They were in charge of doing everything on their website, whatever they did or didn't want to do. We can clearly see they're a very casual family, a casual business when they talk on social media. And so that's identified now. Like, we're a hometown kind of thing. I don't have to be all stiff on social media, right? Because that's one of the things we talk about too, is your tone and your voice. I always say, don't get political, but are we a Dippin' Dots or are we a White House? Those are 2 totally different ways of communicating, right?
Right.
And when you go through the process of writing that down, it's so much easier than to let go and let a few others take a few chunks of your job as an entrepreneur, because now it's written down. I want to talk like this. I don't want to talk like this. Right. And then of course we did a logo for them, and we even did some labels for down the line when they had other flavors and whatever. And then that was it. I stepped back. I mean, I'm always here if they need me. I've helped them with a few t-shirt fun designs. But they're a small business. And so they kind of reel their budget in, which a lot of small businesses have to do. But they are so busy now because honestly, of course, this was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. So they had a good run before everything shut down, right?
Mhm.
But they were so busy that they are actually cutting back hours. They literally are only open like 9 to 3 most days, with only one day being late, which just blows my mind because people are working. How are they still getting there? Let me tell you, people figure out how to get there. They have a Saturday hours, but during the week it's like 9 to 3 because they have to go run the farm too, right? They can't be there all the time. But they were there like 9 to 7 every day, plus farm in the morning and evening. And now they have like 2 or 3 days off. And they even like, they said, tell you, text your deli orders ahead of time. No matter what, we shut this place down at 3:00. And I asked her, even during shutdowns, like, is that okay? Like, how are you doing? She's like, I do not need more right now. And I do think, a lot of it's they have good milk and they're good family. That's key, right? They have a good brand, but they have a consistency that they were able to show to the market before things got crazy, and they were able to sustain it. So that's a small business. Do you want a big business example too?
Sure.
I'll make it shorter. Okay.
Oh, it's all good.
Big business is Coe Distributing, which is a wholesale furniture supplier. Again, it's okay to talk that they're a client of mine. I won't give out all the things that we do for them. However, the marketing person there kind of reached out to me a few times and, played phone tag forever because they're a very large business. She's very busy. And just was kind of talking about, I think I need some press release help. I'm not really sure why I'm not getting attention. Well, it turns out it was kind of the way things were written was part of it. There was a lot of filler in there without real news. That was part of it, right? So we identified that, but I said, I will not start with a company, especially one this big, until I at least do a little bit of brand identity discovery. I need to know who you are. How am I supposed to pitch you to the media if I don't know who you are? So of course they were super busy, only did a very small portion of it, but here's where I'm going to circle this back. So we've been working with them for about a year. We went through the whole pandemic with them because this is a new one. Of course, this is an office furniture retailer that you think would have, and they didn't, because not because of me, that's fully them. They knew how to pivot. They really did. I won't get into that, but at any rate, now we're starting to talk about a couple of their brands, their furniture brands, right? Because they have a few furniture brands. And they were asking me about something not working on social media. And I said, well, I haven't looked at those brands of yours. I was folks, you only told me look at the big one. Let me look. And their about is just basic. We're a furniture brand that you love to sit on. I mean, it was basic, right? And I said, that brand discovery stuff we did for the overall parent company, we need to do that for your smaller company or your brand too, your line. Oh, that's right. And it just kind of clicked. So now we're working on that. And right away, they had another company doing a lot of their social media ads. But what was the clincher for all of us was when we said, do you know your abouts don't match and everything's all over the place? She went, would you know this big, social media company that pushes this out said the same thing to us? They said, well, we're only in charge of your content and your ads. Why doesn't your other stuff match? And it was literally the exact same thing that we were saying. Why doesn't that match? Why don't you have a story to tell? Just because you're putting great posts out and you're paying some awesome social media company who specializes in furniture to gather this for you, and they have great stats to show you, what's going to make the person stay with you or that transaction turn over if they get to your about and it's like furniture company, like it doesn't say anything about you. So that was kind of a light bulb moment. We're still working on it. We actually just kind of had this discussion in the last couple of weeks, but that was a light bulb moment for that company to realize, wow, that's exactly what Susan's telling me, exactly what this big social media company that does this for, hundreds of furniture retailers is telling me the exact same thing. Why don't you have your stuff written down and consistently telling your story across every channel?
That's really, really good points. Those are all really, really good. So if you're listening, take a look at your stories, take a look at your bios, take a look at your abouts. Does it all tell a cohesive story? And what about your branding? Is there one color here, one font there? Does it all look uniform? Because, and Susan's going to go, I typically tell my clients, that's okay if we don't have that done yet. Let's just start promoting. And then when we get into it, I'm like, okay, we now need to pick a cohesive look, because now we're getting into making all this stuff, and my designers and my writers don't have a set look to look at for when they're creating things. And so it just kind of looks all over the place.
Well, and talk budget for that, right? Even though sometimes it's hard, especially for small businesses and entrepreneurs, to handle swallowing something where they don't see that immediate impact. What they don't realize is it's so much faster for us as marketers to create that ad once we have that cohesiveness first, right? Otherwise, we're kind of like flailing. I had a local company come to me and ask me about some social media help. And they're like, yeah, but we really just want to dive in. They're a landscaping company. It's our time of year. And I said, I have to do some pre-work. Otherwise, I don't want to sell you social media, because they were upset with a big company they were already using who was not giving them any tailored content. And I said, well, I'll have the same problem as them. If I don't know who you are and you don't have a logo and a style guide, I could be sending you colors that don't go with you. That's not doing anything for your brand.
Right. No,
it's
totally.
doing detrimental things. It is
totally
doing detrimental things.
Totally. Yeah, I know. And I think every marketing expert out there that I've ever talked to talks about the importance of needing that leeway time, needing that lead time to really get to know the brand. Because typically when you hit the ground running, and I've learned this the hard way a couple times, it's just not going to be a good look. So take the time with your marketing experts to allow them to get to know you, and that's super important.
You'd be so surprised how much that helps them get to know themselves as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I think big companies.
It's a fun process. It's a fun process.
And it is hard, because as an entrepreneur, like, I don't have time for this. But it's so important. I feel like it's way more important for entrepreneurs than it is for the bigger businesses, because the bigger businesses, like, they're kind of organically doing some of this stuff without realizing it, right? Because they have a whole marketing department. So somewhere somebody's writing something down, right? But those entrepreneurs, sometimes it's one person, right? And they're just doing it out of their brain. And if they want to think about, as you always talk about, letting themselves do their zone of genius so others can do theirs, they have to feel confident enough that that person is going to do it in the same way that they would. Right?
Yes.
Well, how do you do that? You write down, not, I want you to do X, Y, Z. No. Because that doesn't give that person you're hiring any sort of leeway to be creative for you. But what you can do is write down, here are my values. Here are my main words. Here is my brand story. Here is my mission and my vision. Oh gosh, we didn't even talk about that. Here are 20 statements I want to say about myself. That's huge. That's like a little Bible for them. That's like huge, right? And then on the same token, here's not just my logo as a JPEG, but here's my Pantone colors. Here's 3 colors that complement my brand colors. Ooh, just like you pick out your color palette for yourself, pick out your color palette for your brand, so that every time it's consistent. Right. Huge.
Yeah, it is huge. Any last words before we leave our audience?
Well, of course, we want to walk you through all of this process. So you can, like we said, do the small version or the big version of this. But if for some reason you're sitting here guzzling your coffee, completely overwhelmed listening to our podcast, and you're like, Susan, I'll have to call you later. I can't handle this. I don't even think I can handle this in 3 months. Okay, fine. We'll get there. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just do yourself a favor and jot yourself some notes. Get a little notebook. I know Marta has a bunch of these. Get a little notebook. Keep it right beside your computer. and start to write down those values and those thoughts. I'm just going to say thoughts about your brand, right? So that they're recorded somewhere. Or I like to do it on my phone. I keep stuff in my notes app on my phone. So when you're at your wit's end, an idea about who you want to be as a brand might pop into your head. So just go ahead and write it down somewhere. Try to keep it in the same place so it's organized.
Yes.
If you don't, we'll help you find it later, right?
Yes, right, exactly. And where can they find you if they want to learn more from you or if they want to connect with you?
So Ideality Communications, it sounds like a big word, but it's ideality. So it's like ideas and reality.
And I said ideology at the beginning of this. I was like,
you know what? Most people say ideality, which surprised me. A lot of people, I don't know. I need an accent. I need to be like foreign on my words. We made it up. It was a
little French hat. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it was fun. Ideality, ideas to reality is kind of how we started. We've morphed since then, but idealitycommunications.com. And my email is super easy. It's just my first name, Susan @Ideality. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We aren't quite as active as some companies might be. You know why? Because our clients aren't really on there as much because they're really busy and they're not getting their clients from there. We do other sorts of advertising, but we are on there. You can connect with us on there. But check out our website. You'll meet a few of my team members and see how fun and creative we are, because we wrote a lot for our website, as you can imagine, since we're writers. So, and then I think you want me to put my link in the comments?
Yes, she's going to drop it in the comments when this is over. So that way you guys will know where to click and find her easily. Thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad we finally got to do this. It's cheers.
Me too. Cheers.
Don't spill on your computer.
Cheers. I'll try to get it in focus with the camera. There you go. There it is. Now I'm out of focus. See ya. Bye, everyone.